Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Today, I wanted to talk about Daniel Penny again. So, the last podcast I did, I mislabeled the guy and I said it as Daniel Perry. His name is actually, Daniel Perry is the one in Texas that was wrongly convicted of using self-defense and killing a guy with a Kalashnikov who had pointed the gun at him, who was at low ready. So Daniel Penny is the one that was in New York who actually defended himself, defended the passengers on the subway. Now there's a give send going. I'm using Tim Pool's tweet about it to highlight this, but it's been going on since he surrendered. So Daniel Penny surrendered before they've even raised the indictment. And that's how lawful the guy is. This seems like the guy was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he was trying to do what's good. Now, this hits home for me because I'm a concealed carry holder. I have taken it upon myself to train so that if I had to use a firearm, that I would be capable of doing so. And in my state, it is perfectly legal to do so, okay? What really is sad about this is, I carry insurance because, well, it's kind of the way of the world that you're going to get into some sort of legal ruckus if you defend yourself. Now, what this strikes hard for me is this shouldn't even be consideration for the government to go after Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny did what any Samaritan or good Samaritan would do. He rose to action. In his case, he didn't use a firearm. It would have been lethal probably right off the bat if that were the case. This man tried to subdue a mentally unwell person on a subway. And right now, there have been riots in New York that have been against this guy. They're calling for his arrest. That's why he gave himself up, I believe. But his Gibson Go, and I'll put the link in the description on this video when I post it on Rumble, is now almost at $2 million. Now, if you think about the situation, and you're in New Mexico, for instance, and you're on the Rail Runner, that would be the closest thing we have, which is in Albuquerque. You're not supposed to have a firearm on the Rail Runner anyway, I believe. I think they have it posted because it's private property, and that's one of the stupid laws that we have here. But say you were to defend yourself on the Rail Runner from mentally unwell people. And if you've been to Albuquerque, you've seen them walking around. Hell, I live in northwest New Mexico, and I've seen them up here walking around. These people, they're not going to ever be in a home, their own home probably, because they're mentally unstable. They have no mental capacity to keep their home. So this is an increasing problem that we're going to see as they empty out jails and as there is no institutional way to keep these people locked up, at least to defend themselves or to keep them safe, and to keep us safe by extension by them being excluded. That sounds bad that I'm advocating for someone to be imprisoned without trial, and I realize why that sounds bad to me, but there are some people that are mentally unwell that for their own protection and for the protection of everyone else, they need to go away. And that's what leads me to making this. I was a little bit inspired by Tim today, his first little segment that he had, but that's not the whole reason. The real reason is because I can see myself being in this situation, As I said, there's a reason why I have insurance, self-defense insurance, and it has to go with, that there are district attorneys that if you do something in a defensive manner, they're going to go after you. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And you need to have the backing of the legal system with you. Now, maybe it's time to look at maybe those insurers like USSC, maybe those guys that are Texas Law Shield, that's the one I have. I was trying to think of the name. They actually go and extend this to people that can that are real proficient with martial arts. Now, I believe firmly that if you're defending yourself with a firearm, you need to be able to defend yourself with your fists and your hands too. So there's some of that martial arts stuff is kind of ingrained in someone who's going to try to defend themselves. I've taken martial arts classes, self-defense classes for years to try before I started getting into the CCW world. Behind this rather puckish exterior, I hope I can defend myself. I train hard to try to do that. In fact, I trained this morning, not with a firearm, but I actually hit the gym because I'm trying to lose weight. And it makes me think that we're in this different world, and Tim mentions it all the time about get out of the city. But there's a lot of people that can't. I'm thinking about someone who's divorced and they have joint custody. You can't leave the state and get to see your kids. That's just not a thing. There's some of us, like me, for instance. One of the reasons why I'm still in New Mexico is I had a lot of family. I still have a lot of family here, but I was taking care of my mom and my dad in the twilight years of their existence. Through my dad's cancer treatment, my brother, one of them lives in the south in Tennessee, the other one lives in the south of the state, or farther south in the state. My dad didn't have anybody that could actually, well, he had a few people. His adopted daughter probably could have helped with this, but not to the extent that I was willing to. I sat there through hospice care with my dad, and if this situation had happened, I don't know what would have happened to my dad at that time. Who would have stepped up? My brothers all had jobs like I did. It just so happened that my job at the time was with the school districts that gave me, and I had a lot of leave time that I could actually deal with what was going on with my dad. But we keep running into this world where people are unhinged. It isn't going to take much, like Daniel Penny did, for another incident to happen like this, if it hasn't already happened. And the government wants you to be defenseless. The fact that AOC called for this man's arrest, the fact that New York prosecutors are even allowing this man to surrender because he's being charged with second-degree manslaughter. There's a lot of people on the left that say that that's okay. I don't agree with that. If these people are willing, and I say these people, these criminals that are going after you or going after someone in the herd, so to speak, in society, and law enforcement isn't there to step up and actually do something about it, it's up to us. There used to be such a thing as societal influence and societal, action that was such that it wouldn't allow this type of thing to happen. There should have been more. In my opinion, there are 3 guys here that did this. And Daniel Penny actually went so far as to put the man in recovery position to try to get him back after he put him in a chokehold, basically. Things went south and the man passed away. That's tragic. However, this man was actively beating on an elderly woman when Daniel stood up and took on the role of a man. For many years, the role of a masculine man, the protector, has been demonized, and you're seeing that reflected in society right now. We need more Daniel Pennies in the world. My dad used to say this all the time: be the sheepdog, be the guy that actually protects society. Some people can't defend themselves. That evolved later. In junior high and high school, I was way more passive than I was after I graduated college. And that was because I finally came into my own, I guess. What about the younger generation? I have 2 boys that I try to tell that the same lessons that my dad gave me, that you are a sheepdog. You're supposed to protect those around you, even if you don't like them. And we're at that point where those that you don't like, or those that don't like us, more specifically, will go after us if we actually defend and protect people. And what are the repercussions after that? You're going to face legal repercussions. And are you prepared for it? The best advice I got was from a CCW instructor that said, get insured. And that's point of fact. You're going to have to. We're in that point in life that if you defend yourself, defend those around you, that someone, either the person that's perpetrating the act, if he survives or she survives, or their family, are going to sue you. It's sad to see that the state, when I say the state, the government, going after you for defending yourself. That's your right. It's enshrined in the Constitution. Donald Trump said that was a privilege when he was in the town hall. He needs to correct that. It is not a privilege. It is a right. Now, whether you do it with your hands and feet or you do it with a firearm to defend yourself and those around you, that's a guaranteed right. You have a right to survival. You have a right to violence. You have equal right under the Constitution to violence. The government currently has a monopoly on violence, though. And that's why this man is facing, hard time for defending someone who couldn't defend themselves. And it makes you think, are you willing to do that for the rest of the world? Myself, that's what it makes me do. It makes me reflect and see if I would still pull my gun and defend someone if I had to. The answer is yes. And it's because I couldn't live with myself knowing that I let someone else get hurt. And this stems from the shooting in Aztec, to be bluntly honest. If we were allowed to carry firearms, maybe we wouldn't have lost 2 people in school. Maybe I know enough people in that district specifically that were former law enforcement people or that trained extensively with firearms and could have helped in this sooner. Granted, in my incident in Aztec, it was about 1:20 that the incident ended. But one of the guys, who is a very nice guy, who helped get the alert out that there's a shooter on campus, what would have happened if he would have been able to draw a gun? Now, I don't know that person is capable of it, and I don't know that he would, because he's kind of a gentle soul. But I know that everyone else there could have. And I know one of the teachers that this shooter was actively trying to target is very capable of defending themselves. But they weren't ever given the option. Because in school districts, you are a canned tuna. We advertised on all school buildings that this is a gun-free zone. That's effectively saying, come do whatever the hell you want, because there is no defense here. Since the incident, they have guards there. There was a time that they were armed guards, but I don't believe they are now, and that's because it became, how do I put it, the left kind of won here. And I say that because of the state. The state of New Mexico makes it extremely expensive. They won't even insure a school district if there are people with guns there. And that's a problem with the infrastructure and with the state that I live in that needs to be rectified. There's also that uncomfortable feeling, that uncomfortable conversation of what happens if you put out rounds and they don't hit their intended target. And that actually is a conversation that needs to be had. I'm one of the few people, I believe, that will tell you that guns do have a place in school, but not more of them. And what I mean by that is, I have met teachers that absolutely are fantastic and could do everything they need to defend their kids, defend those around them. I've met some teachers that are excellent in the classroom, but under stress or duress are not effective at doing anything. And those are the type of people I don't want to have firearms to put down rounds in an incident where seconds count. Those are the ones that will shoot first not realizing what's behind the target or where the round's going after they've squeezed the trigger. And those people, to be honest, while it's their right to be carrying, probably shouldn't be carrying or training themselves up to where they are capable of it. They can get around those barriers, but they're going to have to train to do it. And they have to change their mindset, because that live and let live mindset is why people get killed nowadays. The fact that you're not willing to respect what is out there to kill you. You don't have to be sweet to these people, as Sonny says all the time, but you have to be respectful. What you don't respect can kill you. That's simple fact. That's simple math. What would have happened in Daniel Penny's case if this gentleman was capable of overpowering him? With the other two dudes that were trying to help him, would they have thrown their lot in to help defend himself when he got himself in that situation? In the self-defense world, in the CCW world, they tell you two things: to know when to act and to know when to be a good witness. And that's what you have to judge, that knife's edge, when an incident happens like this. When seconds count, you have to make those split decisions, and you have to be confident enough about them to make them. And that's where we need people to start rising. Men and women nowadays, all men and women, need to be able to defend themselves. You want to know what I think has done more for women's rights is gun rights. And why I say that is, you take a pistol or an AR-15, even better example, I should say, and you hand it to a small stature woman. She's now at parity, or better than parity, than any attacker that would come at her. That puts her on equal ground or above equal ground to be able to make sure she's still alive. That is what our founding fathers intended. We have there's a group of people, and they're both left and right, that think the government's going to get them out of stuff, and that just voting harder will fix the situation we're in. And that's not what's going to fix the situation. What's going to fix the situation, honestly, is hard work. People making those cultural determinations to do stuff and to represent the culture. And what I mean by that is that masculine defensive aspect needs to be normalized, not made into a thing that, or not demonized. That's the better way to put it. We don't want to demonize these guys, us guys, that are willing to defend ourselves and defend those around us. It's the whole point of law enforcement in general, is to de-escalate the situation, because if you're going to get attacked in the most violent way possible, that's a deterrent. And that usually, to a sane, rational person, will back them back down. And we've let society decay so much that we have the weakest of the weak right now leading us in society. And these are the ones that think that a drum circle and just giving this person a hug will fix the situation. And if anything, this situation shows that's not possible. If you're mentally ill, this guy had 62 or 42 different incidents. The guy that perpetrated this act, not Daniel Penny, the man Daniel Penny stopped, had 62 or 42 different incidents. And it's hard to tell which of the numbers. And I say that because I've read it in multiple different places, and the numbers never add up. So if this guy had that many incidents before, and no one did anything about it until something like this happened, that's on the government. The government knew about this guy. The state knew about this guy. The police knew about this guy. And the system let him continue to be out on the streets to attack and hurt someone else. Now, you do you, but I know what I'm going to do. and I'm not going to be led to the slaughter. I'm not going to let someone hurt someone next to me without doing something about it. That's part of being a man in the United States. Like, share, subscribe, be great, and I'll share the link to Daniel's Give, Send, Go. If you get a chance, give him help support the man. Maybe he doesn't have insurance like I do for self-defense. And this man's life has pretty much been ruined by doing what was right. Be great.